Hey everyone, welcome to another Friday edition of the Livestream. My name is Lev. I got Don here. We're both in our Mississauga showroom. Welcome everyone. How you feeling, Don?
Pretty good, man. Pretty good. I love working in here. It feels like I have a really robust, fancy office. Really fancy.
A lot of technology.
So many lasers in my office.
I know you guys probably missed us last week. We did have a Canadian holiday on Friday. It was Easter, so sorry for missing our regular weekly live streams. But we're here with you guys today. Unfortunately, Mike couldn't make it. Maybe he'll still join us halfway. Maybe James will. Maybe we'll have a few surprises. So we'll see where it goes. But I guess today we kind of wanted to talk about our SP500, which is the entry level. Actually, Don, can you zoom out on the laser cam just so they can see the full machine?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So the SP500, I mean, it's the SP, right? So it's our large format lasers. It's 48 by 24, which is a standard sheet bed size. You can see we've actually put a whole bunch of Don, if you can open the lid, I could just tell them what we did there. So we put a bunch of masking tape to basically hold down the acrylic. Thank you, Don.
It's my price is right, you know.
Yeah. Exactly. Oh, by the way, say hello in the chat. Let us know where you're from. We'd love to say hello.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I mean, for this 500, it works like there's a suction from the table. So when we're cutting, thick pieces of acrylic, in this case, we're cutting. Is it 10 mil acrylic, I believe?
10 mil acrylic. Yeah, we've also got some. We've got some fun stuff kicking around in the back here. We've got some half-inch MDF, samples that we have kicking around. We have some thinner MDF. We're going to try a few things today. We want to put this machine through its paces a little bit.
Yeah, awesome. And I mean, the reason we want to seal it off is when you're cutting acrylic, you do get, I guess it depends on your laser wattage. You can get some flaming at the bottom, especially with the thicker stuff, because you're going slow and the acrylic starts to melt and it could flame up. So when we seal off everywhere else on the table, it creates that suction where it just like the air assist, instead of blowing the flame, it's just sucking any of the flame down. So it kind of disintegrates the flame.
Exactly.
So that's really why.
The masking in general too. I was going to say, I mean, this is something that one of the reasons we're showing this application, I think, is because when we get into larger format machines, largely we're talking about, and not to generalize, but largely we're talking about cutting machines. Certainly we'll show you some engraving on this machine today. I think it is pretty impressive what the 500 can do. But, when you're talking about cutting materials like a half-inch or like a 10 millimeter acrylic, like a half-inch MDF, flaming is something that you do have to contend with, certainly, regardless of what tool you're using. You want to just be careful. Not necessarily always just from a safety standpoint, although that is obviously in our minds, but also just from a final aesthetics standpoint. So investing in some masking like this, and I don't say this just because I'm the consumables manager, although, if you want to get some, by all means, engraving-supplies.ca. You can also use it for things like masking the surface of, a sheet of wood in order to prevent flaming on the surface of the wood, in order to prevent some of that charring, stuff like that. Don't consider masking as a one-use thing. There's a lot of really cool stuff that you can do with masking in terms of, as Lev is saying, increasing the vacuum of your table, preventing charring on the surface of your acrylics or woods, that sort of thing. You're going to find a lot of different uses for, even with the new laser leather. Certainly, you have a material that's really, really thin. Sometimes sealing off the bed can help you there too, in terms of that same sort of suction. Except in this case, it's not necessarily as much about flaming. It's more about adhering your material right to the bed. So it's a multi-use tool kind of thing, right? Good to have around.
Yeah, and I mean, now that you mentioned the consumable website, so if you guys are in Canada, check out engraving-supplies.ca, and if you just type in masking tape, and then you'll get a whole bunch of stuff. But this is really the tape. This is double-sided. I think if you type in, there we go. If you type in masking, so you'll get those tapes. And the one that we used was the biggest one, the 12-inch wide that we covered the table with. And you can do it for, like Don said, all sorts of stuff. We got LCD. Hey, Randy, how are you doing? A suggestion: instead of masking tape, one-time usage, I have some cardstock cut in various widths, weights that stays by the SP400 and is quick on and off and reusable.
Super smart.
Yeah, thank you, Randy. That's actually great.
I mean, essentially what you're talking about there is a jig, right? Where realistically, it's it's cardstock, but if you're cutting the same materials over and over, and you can hand set up your cardstock in advance, so it'll always be the perfect size. That's incredible. That's awesome.
Yeah. Good morning, guys.
Morning, Doug. Good morning, Randy.
Alberta. Hey, guys. Welcome, everyone. We have somebody from Casablanca, Morocco. Hey, Tarek. Very nice to have you on board. Actually, that SP500, we have the same on the 400, I believe, but the 500 has pass-through, so you can actually take out the back. Mm-hmm. So you can fit in doors, large format. I mean, canoes. Well, maybe not canoes, but
guitars.
Well, yeah. I mean, the guitar fully fits in this Speedy 400. But yeah, you could do like wide. It's basically unlimited length, and the width is only 48 inches, basically. Mm-hmm. Okay, so I guess we can get right to it. Don, if you want to share your screen, we're going to show you a little bit of the cutting. So we'll show you a very, very basic Corel. Hey, Alex from Corel. Actually, we use Corel all the time. Thank you for joining us, Alex. Coreldraw is actually a really, really nice software, especially for beginners. It has all the functionality that Adobe Illustrator has, but I actually find it a lot easier to learn than Illustrator, especially for the laser. And most of our stuff, we use Coreldraw, like our videos and stuff. So definitely here in Canada, we sell Coreldraw. So if you guys would like a quote, reach out to us as well. Mm-hmm. Sorry, Don. Yeah, I got your screen ready here. Okay, perfect. So this is Corel.
Yeah, exactly. I'm just going to show you, as Lev said, just some very basic functionality. We do have some really, really great tutorials, though, on our YouTube channel. Do not hesitate to check those out. Highly recommend. What I'm going to show you today is just some very, very basic stuff in terms of, I've got like a simple form here in terms of the rectangle. I've got our logo, and I want to show you a really cool way that you can sort of jazz up. Let's say you want to do like a POP display. I mean, I don't know. You guys are always far more creative than we are, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to begin by taking our logo here. I'm going to pull the full completely out of it. This is because I want to cut this object, and I'm going to add a stroke.
Did we vectorize that logo already?
Yes. So this is coming to us from. I mean, this is a pre-existing file that we had ready to go, but obviously, if you had just like a JPEG or an EPS, that is still something that you could bring into Corel or into, as you said, Illustrator or Inkscape, one of the other files, one of the other systems. Vectorize it or trace it and create something like this. I like doing it in Corel, just as Lev said, sort of, it's very, very fast. It's very, very easy. You'll notice that I set the stroke here in an RGB red and in a hairline. Very likely that a lot of people already know this, but depending on the software that you're using, in order to indicate a cut line for the job control software, you're going to want to have that set to the particular width that you need. So your stroke in Illustrator is going to be a 0.001, and here in Corel, it's as a hairline.
Hey, Spiros from Greece, long-time laser user. Spiros has a very old 20-year-old Speedy 100. We did a live stream with Spiros, so took a look at his engraving shop up in Greece. Thank you for joining us, Spiros. Sorry, no.
Wasn't it like a Speedy? It's a Speedy 1, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's a very, very old Speedy.
It's incredible. It's cool and still going strong.
Yep.
I don't mean for that to sound like surprised. It's just when we saw it, I mean, like, it is pretty cool. As Lev sort of alluded to, definitely check out that video because it's really, really cool.
Yeah, I just want to quickly mention the hairline. I mean, if you're using Illustrator, it'll be the 0.01, so the thinnest line possible. If you're using Inkscape or AutoCAD, it's basically the thinnest line that you can make. That's how the laser reads it as a cut line. So it knows, okay, this is what we want to cut, versus if we're filling it with color, then it knows that we want to engrave it. So we'll show you guys both.
So a 0.001 actually in Illustrator, even
sorry.
thinner. Yeah. I'm going to use a little tool here at the top called Weld in order to combine these two shapes that the laser understands that it's not trying to cut out separately. But I want this to be about.
I think you're a little too high, Don. You might want to drop that square a little bit.
That's what I was thinking. So I was going to look at, I want it to be roughly about 6 inches wide and maybe a little bit shorter. So I'm going to shrink this down probably to about there.
Oh, look who we have here. It's Mr. James.
Thank goodness.
James, can you hear us?
I can hear you fine. Thank you.
Wow.
Hello.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining us. Wow, that's amazing.
Well, I was actually driving when I got the message.
So.
Was it the van?
I had just left, so I was. I came back.
You don't have to come back. It just Mike wasn't available, so I kind of texted James last minute. I'm like, hey, can you join us in half an hour? I think it's like 7:30 in the morning there. So sorry, James.
That's okay.
Absolutely.
I'm raring to go. Let's get to it.
So we're basically, just about ready to go. I use the weld tool, and I'll undo that really quickly just so you guys can see. So basically, all I have is again our logo here. As a separate vector shape. Our little square here at the bottom. That's essentially going to act just as our stand, and then we're going to use the weld tool here to create one object. Make sure that our stroke is still a hairline.
James, I just since you joined us, I just want to kind of tell you. Oh, we got shout outs from HB Engraving. So we're actually this live stream. We want to focus on the SP500. Of
course.
It's their entry level laser. Anything you can kind of tell us before we go more into the design part? I mean, who do you sell SP500s to out in BC?
Well, I mean, people who love cutting large format stuff, for one thing. Larger format, you need to place bigger pieces in. People who need to who are marking things like giant doors or boardroom tables or things like this, passing things right through. Heavy duty cutting is where I really see this working.
And I'm just showing everyone the pass through. So this is what it would look like. You would take the back off, and then you can put things like doors and large panels through.
Correct.
Awesome. Sorry, Don. You can go ahead. So we're welding.
Yes. So we're welding. I feel like a substitute teacher. So all I've done here is I've added in just a little extra detail, so we could also show off. So Lev was sort of discussing earlier how there are certain specifics that you're going to want to maintain, in order for the software to understand that something is a cut line. The same thing for an engraving. So in this case, we're going to set this as a solid RGB black. And then when we pass this over to our laser software, when we pass it over to job control, we're going to be able to tell it that, hey, everything you see here that is in RGB black, we want you to engrave. So I'm going to add a little bit of extra cool detail to our piece here. Let me just highlight this whole thing. Let's maybe scale it down just a little. And I'm holding shift while I do that in order to maintain our ratios here. We don't want things going wonky. And then let's before I do that, look, I've bungled it. Here we go. Slide that over. Ta-da. Okay.
And there's now Ruby support for this as well, which is really cool for the SP500. Brand new. So this workstation you're working on may not have it, but that's very exciting as well.
That's exactly right. It is just in the most recent update, like the very, very most recent update. So,
yeah.
If you are one of, as Lev said, one of James's customers that has one of these machines, I encourage you to definitely check it out.
We're just for people who don't know what you're doing. So you're actually we're in the print drive. So we're going right from the design software from Coreldraw. We're basically printing it off to our laser machine, and then we're setting the dimensions. So right now it's 8.5 by 11, which is your sheet. But I mean, it doesn't really matter, right, James? Because it's just the size of the actual design.
Yeah, I mean, he's got minimized to job size checked there. So instead of sending a square 8.5 by 11 to the laser, it's going to send whatever size the graphics is. So if you have a 4 by 4 graphics inside of an 8.5 by 11 page, and you click the minimize to job size, it's only going to send that 4 by 4 graphic. And so it doesn't. He could have put 33 by 33. He could have put 100 by 100. It wouldn't have mattered. It would only, if you have minimized job size checked, then you're just going to send just what graphics you have on your page, as opposed to the size of the page.
And we could show that too if you like. I mean, we could send one from each version, but let me just pop this over into job control here just so we can show you.
I just want to quickly, before we go, I just want to give a shout out to James again. Thank you for being here. I want to show everyone who is James and what is his van. If you guys are in the BC area in British Columbia, he will drive to you with this laser van. Hold on, sorry. Let me
just bar none. There's no exceptions. You just call him up any hour, any day.
So
yeah, here he comes.
He has a Speedy 360 laser right inside this van, and he will drive to you and show you some samples and cool stuff. He has a really nice build that he did. I'm just gonna show them a little bit of a cameo. This is inside your van. You still have that 360, right, James?
Oh, of course, yeah. That very same one. It's been in there for what, four years, driving around the province, banging around back there in the cold and the hot, and the thing still works like brand new. I think it's a great testament to the build quality of the machine. Myself, I tout that all the time. I'm like, this thing is the most abused machine on the planet, like by far, and it just still keeps working. I've never taken it out for service. It's pretty interesting. Pretty interesting how that can work.
Yeah, so if you're on the island, if you're Vancouver area, I mean, even Prince George up north.
Up north, yeah.
Give him a call and he'll drive to you. Sorry, Don, we can continue.
No, not at all. Listen, I'm so excited that James is here too. I'm just trying to contain my, I'm trying to hold it in.
Save it.
Yeah. I'll wait until we're off camera when nobody's watching before I start to gush, Yeah. So I'm just going to, if you want to actually share the laser cam here, Lev, really quick. I'm just going to quickly, show you guys. So this is, as Lev said, the 10 mil. Oh, I'm very good at this.
You want to zoom out a little bit because it's focusing on the digital focus. So, yeah, that's good.
Now, I mean, you would never go
actually, sorry, that B, that was me. Me trying right before we went live. Oh, look who it is! It's Mr. Mike. You made it.
Hey, Mike.
Hi, Mike.
I just got back from my COVID test, so.
Well, thank you for making it. That's great. But we're just actually talking SB 500. So that actual bead that I did right before it started to flame up. So that's why we covered everything with the masking tape.
That's why Don's running the laser. No, that's not true.
It's great to cover the rest of the bed with masking tape or something. I mean, I use silicone placemats that I bought on Amazon or something, and the silicone placemats, you can just keep reusing them, and you can cut them into smaller shapes, and I can usually fit all my silicone placemats all around the part, and what it does is it seals off the rest of the bed so that when you get that pierce through the machine, you're gonna be pounding air right through that cut, and that's going to be clearing the bottom of the part of your flammable smoke. It's going to be jetting it through. One thing to be aware of though is when you're trying to get a really, really heavy duty flame polished edge on that, if you're jetting a lot of air through there and you've got the vacuum plus your air assist on top, you could be frosting especially the top part of your cut, and if you're not careful, you could get a more frosted edge than a clear edge.
And Mike, we kind of asked James this already, but I mean, for your customers, like the SP500, who usually buys this type of machine, this type of equipment?
Anybody that buys that machine typically are cutting heavier, like more like 1/2 inch or greater, and well, it could be cutting 6 millimeter, but typically somebody that's looking to cut thicker acrylic or wood, typically. The big difference on that machine, because it does have the head exhaust on it as opposed to a plenum on the back, which is better for larger pieces if you want to run pass through there. But again, the SP500 is more of a cutting machine, built for cutting first, and laser engraving as kind of like a secondary. Unlike the smaller machines like the 400 and that, which are they built a little bit more for engraving than they are cutting, even though the cut quality is best. But anybody that wants that really flame polished edge with minimal striations in the edge on acrylic, then certainly the SP500 is the machine to have.
So mostly, we got a tech guy walking in the background. So mostly, like sign makers, if you're doing point of purchase displays with acrylic, I know a lot of the makeup stands and like shoppers are designed, like are built with that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah, the acrylic fabrication people.
Yeah.
So signage.
So Don, sorry, could you go back to that for a quick second? Just so this is anybody want to have a crack at explaining what this is for people?
It's our job control materials list and the details for the materials. You see on the left, we have all the materials that come shipped with the machine. We can add our own folders and our own materials inside those folders. And we can just keep adding them as we go. And in fact, you should keep adding them as you go, because then you never have to keep testing, because we have them all stored in here. You start off with one material that is at least close to what you're doing. You go and you find, acrylic 10 millimeter Troglass. Look at that. It's right in there.
I made this one. I was going to say, yeah, I've actually done exactly that. I followed exactly the steps that James was talking about to make this custom one myself.
Yeah, and most of them are already in there, and I'm sure if you go on some of the Trotec Facebook pages and forums and the like, you can get people to send their settings as well if you have the same wattage and model of machine. But on the right hand side here, we have 16 colors. Now, these are not going to engrave colors into your parts. These are merely just layers that Coreldraw is using, or whatever software you have. Black being, in this case, engraved, but we could have made a thin black line and had it cut, I suppose. But you can make blue a heavy duty cut that cuts all the way through, or in this case, probably just scoring. You make red a heavy duty cut, and you'll see the order in which that they're going to engrave or cut are going from top to bottom. And normally we see red underneath blue, but Don must have moved red.
No, that was actually me. I wanted to show like the next application we'll do is a kiss cut. So we'll show how to do a kiss cut. That's why I switched it. The blue was the kiss cut, and the red was the full cut.
Because we would want to engrave and then do the score before we actually cut the part. Because if the part drops by 0.5 millimeter, then your engraving is going to be out if you do the cut first. So all these things can be set up for different speeds, powers, and one thing that's very cool, that probably the best part about all this, is that the Z offset can be changed as well. So if you're trying to engrave up onto a stepped part that has a higher elevation on one side than it does on the other, you could change that. Or if you need the beam width to change for a wider score line, maybe you're making a outline, engraving an outline on a piece of acrylic, you can change the beam width by changing the Z offset. And Thus,
in layman's terms, the Z offset is the table going up and down, which puts the machine in or out of focus.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
No, yeah, and again, you're doing 10 millimeter, which is almost half inch. So that offset should be somewhere around, I would say probably, maybe, well, depending what lens you have on there, 5 inch or
it's
2.5?
2 inch lens.
Yeah. So you probably should be using, now you're at the cusp of the lens because you're going to be pretty close. So, but you are using the wider nose cone. So I'd probably put in like maybe 0.125, like an eighth of an inch.
it's a negative 1 point.
Minus number so that the table comes up. So just make sure.
Don, can you put that in? Minus what was it, Mike?
Should be minus 0.125. You want the table to come up an eighth of an inch. So now the focus is closer to the middle of the material. Minus 1.125, Don. Yeah, that's it. And then turn your auto off for your hertz. And that should, I would make that probably in that type of thickness, probably about maybe 3,500.
Perfect.
And if you guys are wondering, we do have Ruby, which is our kind of new state-of-the-art software. It's still in beta, which is why we're not really showing it so much now, but it is due to fully launch in the next couple of months, and most of these webinars will start showing Ruby. But you guys can actually go and download it, type in Trotec Ruby on Google, and you can play around with the software if you have a Trotec laser right now.
Yeah, the only thing, the one thing too, sorry, I apologize. I didn't come in right at the beginning, but did you send that job over from Corel?
Yeah.
So if you go back to Coreldraw,
I think that's Mike's.
Yes.
Mike has a black lab.
Well, no, this is the new one. This is
there's the new one.
Brown one, yes. Yeah, go back to Corel.
Yeah, we're there.
Yeah, so click on your node editing tool, your shape tool, yeah. And then click on the Trotec, the red. And then press your home key. It's hard to see, yeah. What I'm trying to isolate here is I want to know where the home and ending node are.
Oh.
Right?
Zoom in a little bit more, Don, if you can.
Mm-hmm.
If you press the home key on your keyboard, that will take you to the beginning. So just again, the one thing I'm pointing out here is that on something that's this thick, you're gonna if you don't want to end on the O or end on the E or the C in the middle, because you'll get a parting line, right? Where the end and the node come, like the home and the end come, the beginning and the ending come together. So normally you want to hide that somewhere at a corner, say at the T, where the T comes together at the 90 degree or something like that. Just select that tool. Select that the node at the select that node. That's fine.
This is just a drag.
Yep, drag it. Yep, break it apart. So click right above it. Click that. Yep, and then select it again. And then go back to join, which is the one right. Yep, right there. Click that. Yep. So what that does is that now is your start and end point. So that's how you can change that in Corel, so that you can change your starting point, your ending point, so that it's like, if you draw a perfect circle, you're always going to get that parting line in it, right? It's always a complaint. So normally you would have a lead in, or where you're leading in to the part, doing your part, and then leading back out again. So you don't have those two nodes coming together, which basically gives you a bit of an overburn in that one spot, right? So you always try to hide that end start node in a corner or something like that, or 90 degrees where you don't have that issue, right? So
you mean just to add we don't have to do it now, Don?
No, we just did it. We just
I thought you mean like add an additional little line going in, that
would be a lead in, lead out. If you had jaw control cut, If you had that software, which we do sell, that will create an inline, a lead in for you, lead out, lead in. So actually you can have it so that, because sometimes the pierce point, you know, if you're running the higher wattage lasers, that pierce point can be a little bit more power on that initial pulse. So normally you want it to pulse outside and then travel in. Right?
Don, before you start, we can see on the left-hand side what each line is going to do. If you click update, it shouldn't have the blue. I think you might have the B. Is the B still on?
Yeah.
Oh no, it's not. Yeah, if you double click on the colors and just skip the blue. Oh, yeah. And then click update. Yeah, so it's going to take 27 seconds to engrave. And then I'm not sure why the red, I think, is your red hairline RGB, because it's not showing.
It shows that the red.
It's reading the vectors. It might just be that it's going to be very, very short, but let's have a quick look here.
No. You're at
you're not at hairline.
There you go.
1.8 point.
We were talking about that earlier, so.
There you go. You guys didn't know this was going to be a Corel tutorial, but guess what?
Yeah, so that's actually how you'll catch it. If you see 0, 0, there's no way it's going to cut in 0 seconds. So something's off. So that's how we know that, okay, something was off, and it should be changed in Corel. 90% of the time it's in Corel. Like the line isn't fully RGB or it's not fully hairline. And Pierpaolo is here. Hey, Pierpaolo from Italy. Welcome, our consumable salesperson out of Milan. I think I got that right.
So just click on the calculation tab.
Yeah, there we go. And then
update it.
Have you guys never seen that before? I've certainly seen that before, where it says 00.
Okay, we'll try it now. Just
I mean, look, again, if it doesn't work, then it's a learning experience for me. All right, should we give it a go? And I'll take a look at my Corel file here while it's running.
That's 11.4.1. There was a bug in there for some timing issue bug. So
maybe it'll still be cut in that case.
No, it'll still cut. It's showing up, so it should be fine.
Yeah, and
normally it'll go gray if it's airline. So
I can show you guys quickly the next file, which is what's going to have. You guys can see my screen here. This is kind of our next file, and we just want to show the kiss cut method. So right now,
are you going to engrave that text, Mel? Or?
No. I want to kiss cut it.
Yeah, but are you going to engrave the text?
No. I'm going to kiss cut the text. So this is what I want to show. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to select it, and then do an RGB blue outline.
Oh, so you're gonna cut it? Okay. Because I was going to say, just as a note.
Yeah.
If you were going to engrave that, I'd rotate that job so that the text was horizontal.
Oh, so this is what Mike's talking about. That's actually a great point. So let's say if I wanted to engrave it. So I'm going to go back to black, right? So Mike is saying, so I'm going to select it, press Control G to group it, click it twice, and then rotate the job. So now the machine is just engraving, because this is the x-axis is the fastest engraving as opposed to going up and down engraving. Well, we can't go up and down. It'll have to basically go vertically. So this is what Mike's talking about. That's actually a good point. But we're not going to do that because we're doing kiss cuts.
Yeah, if you're going to kiss cut, it's not a big deal. So.
Sorry. So for kiss cut, I'm going to Control U, so ungroup it. I'm going to select this one, right click, get rid of the fill. And the hairline. And it's RGB. I can see right here it's RGB, and my red is CMYK. So there, I'm going to change it to RGB outline, and it's also a hairline outline. So we already have it ready on Don's laser, but this is basically what I did to quickly change it.
I like that, Don's laser.
Don's laser. And I mean,
Don's laser to burn.
Listen here. You're going to be so impressed with this Trotec logo.
Yeah.
It's almost finished.
Mike, Randy's asking, is there a newer version of 11.4.1 available because of the timing bug? It's harder to
No, I haven't seen anything yet, Rand. I haven't seen anything yet. So all I would do, Randy, is put in a ticket or I guess he's not in our area, but that would.
No, Randy is.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
Randy, right? Sorry about that. Yeah, Randy. Yeah.
Randy,
Yeah,
just
put
in
a
a ticket with mytrotec.ca, and then have a tech see what they could do there.
Yeah, just have them so that if there's a new version, you'll know.
There we go. Look at that. Nice work, Don.
I wish you could look at that, but I can't.
We can't get focused good enough on the edge.
Let me just see. It's tough to.
No, Don, what you do is zoom out completely with the camera.
See, I always think that's a bit of a...
Zoom out and then bring it a little closer. Yeah, there you go. And put your... Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Ooh, that was a J.J. Abrams lens flare there that I'd...
Let's see the edge. Can you show us the edge, Don?
Absolutely. Even this is probably easier.
Yeah.
Yeah, just a couple of notes on the we do also sell a slat table with the machine. You do have the grid table on there, and the problem with the grid table is you're gonna get more back flashes, which can create some ticks in the sidewall of because the beam is bouncing back. So what you can do if you're using the grid table, you could raise it up a little bit. You could go to the slat table. And then the slats could be made of acrylic, so there's the absorption. The thing to remember when you're cutting that type of thick acrylic, and really, a lot of acrylic in general, it's the back reflection that creates the fire.
Yeah.
Okay. So
or the dirt on your machine.
You will rarely, like, anytime I see a flame happening, it's because the beam is hitting that grid table. So it's always very important that you mitigate that as much as you can. So whether you raise it up a little bit, or whether you go to a slat table with acrylic slats on it, or use the acrylic grid table, it's always very important that you take that into account, because not only will that affect your flame polished edge, but then you can reduce any flaming that may happen on the machine. Help mitigate some of the flaming that will happen. So
yeah, I think a lot of the guys you would put even little pieces of acrylic on the edges to raise the acrylic from the table, right? And that can help.
I remember. Yeah. Josephine had those tees. She got the artwork, and I know that Laser Dave down in the U.S. has the artwork for that too. That fits right in the grid table.
Actually, yeah, I got the video right here. So this is what Mike is talking about. Sorry, give me 1 sec. Oh, Don, you're starting the B already?
Yeah, I figured, we're already part of the way in, so I want to get to the...
Yeah, so this is what Laser Dave was showing on his hacks. So these are the little dings that you would get from the back reflection. So these little T's he cuts and he puts in. You can make it out of acrylic. You can make it out of wood. Hey guys from West LA, that's awesome. Western Engraving, sorry.
We've actually got some tees here in the here in my office. I can show you if you like.
Yeah, so especially for acrylic, it's not so much on the wood, right? As far as I know.
No, the wood's not a big deal. But the problem with acrylic is that when you cut acrylic, you separate it, and the monomer separates from the powder, right? And the monomer becomes basically a very flammable liquid, right? So what's happening here is a couple things. Is you're not, the good one, Don. Don's got it. So basically the T's allow the beam to not back reflect, so that gives you that edge, that nice clean edge. But the other thing is that what it also does is allows airflow to come in, stops any flaring to happen, which could reignite that monomer that's there. So it's doing a couple of different things for you, and And it's highly recommended. Because you can see that when Don's cutting out, you can see the flame, a little spark happening, and if you're not drawing out that monomer very very well, or if you get into some thicker materials, you can get that can reignite and it won't go out, right? So again, it's why we always say to stay around the machine all the time, and if you can stop that back reflection, then that will mitigate that issue.
I found that having a lot of people will raise their stuff up and do all the parts they need to do to stop this, and then they're still getting flame, and then you come over to their place to try to help them out, and you notice that there's pieces of cardboard and wood and lots of dust and dirt underneath the surface where they're cutting, and what they're not seeing is that the beam is traveling, and if with the amount of power we're using to get through this thick acrylic, there's enough power to still get down to the bottom of the bed and create sparks and create burns on their little pieces that they have underneath. And this is also causing the spark to the hairspray of cutting this acrylic. The flammable gas is catching, and so keeping that bottom surface clean is really important. And then also another trick that a lot of my people do is they keep pieces of anodized aluminum that they buy from Trotec, black anodized aluminum, and nice clean black anodized aluminum, and they put those underneath where they're going to cut. This way, they don't have to wash and clean the black anodized aluminum surface underneath this laser, and then this just causes it gives you a material that's not going to reflect back up, and that keeps the flares down as well.
And that's a good point, because I did have a customer that had a fire in his machine, and it was because he didn't clean the wood debris out underneath the grid table.
Yeah.
Right. So again, the nice thing about the SP500 though is that distance to the bottom is, I think, probably about 8 inches. So anything that's cut drops all the way down, so you're out of focus. And that's the beauty of this machine. There's a lot of those little idiosyncrasies that you would experience when you're cutting in that, and they designed that into the physical machine. The head exhaust. A lot of times people want to run a pass through on the 500 because they want to put bigger pieces in there, but and when you do a pass-through, you always have to take the plenum off the back, which is your top exhaust draw. Well, we don't have to worry about that on the SP500 because the head is drawing the smoke.
Yeah, there's no back plenum on it. Yeah,
exactly. So again, and if you saw the arm size on this machine compared to the arm, size on one of the smaller machines, it's huge, at least 3 times bigger. And the other thing to remember on these types of machines is that these machines are used very exclusively. Certainly some people engrave with them, but they're used mostly for cutting. So you'll notice that the spindle assembly, if we were to hold a normal 400 spindle or a 300 spindle lens assembly beside that, you'll see that it's a lot, the 500 is a lot bigger. And that's for the ability to draw the heat away from the optics and dissipate that through the air, so that you don't have overheating issues, where you're causing issues to the to the head itself, right? So
it's an incredibly well built, purpose driven machine. I mean, yes, of course it can engrave, but kind of like I always explain it as a cutting machine that engraves really well.
Yeah.
For sure.
I just want to address LCD Randy's question here about the files. Randy, if you go on YouTube, we didn't actually repost this video yet on our channel, but just type in Trotec Laser Hack T acrylic, and then you'll see it in the pin design files if you're looking for those T pins.
What do you mean? I make those laser hacks myself every time.
You would?
I do, actually. They're pretty impressive.
Do you want to show us that B Don in front of the camera?
Yeah, I'm gonna try my best. Here it is, B.
Just try not to move. If you put your hand right in front of the middle, then we can actually see the kiss cut a little bit. Is there any residue that you can
It
just
looks like
out?
there's a little bit of dust on there.
Just a second, I'm going to use a non-brand specific, Wonderment erasing device.
Wow.
It's not a magic eraser. It's a
Mr. Mike Clarke eraser.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah.
You can see the downdraft. Like the exhaust is really creating a downdraft there. All the mask is getting sucked into the grid. Yeah, I would have probably backed off the power a little bit on there, Don, a little bit. Yeah.
No problem. Shall we try it again?
Sure. Yeah, just back off. What's your blue power set at? Your speed and power set?
I believe it's at 50 and 3. Let's have a look.
Yeah, I probably I would go down to about 30.
So here's a question for you. Since I'm not, so the Z offset that you suggested for the sort of more powerful cuts worked beautifully. Would I also be wanting to do a Z offset on a kiss cut, or because it's a kiss cut, am I less concerned about having that sort of Z offset?
Well, if you use a Z offset, you go to focus, and then that cut will be clear, right? If you wanted a clear cut, then you would. It's similar to what you would do with the engraving plastic, but it's only when you're cutting through that you're using that Z offset that you want to go all the way through. So
I've got my screen shared here. I'm not sure if Lev can bring that up in the yes. So sorry. You were saying so for our blue, let's try something 30.
I'd go to 30.
What about the speed?
And you could probably you could turn your air off on there too, Don. You don't really need your air on there.
Now, can I ask you guys what might be a silly question, but this is how I learn. So on a previous SP500, I feel like, did we potentially have a chiller attached to that machine, or was that only the R500 potentially?
No, the you got a 120 watt tube in there, so it's air cooled. That we had a 200 watt tube in one of the previous demo machines. So the 200 watt tube requires a chiller unit, where the 120 watt is air cooled. So that's why.
That makes sense. Okay.
I was going to ask for the difference between the chiller and the air cooled. It's just a wattage. If somebody wants a 200 watt machine, they have to get a.
Well, you could theoretically get a 100 watt. You could get a water chilled tube. I mean, the idea with the higher wattage tubes is it's more critical because the air isn't going to cool them off. So you need to run water there, and you want a consistent temperature on the tube itself, right? And because if you get large fluctuations in temperature, like if you get really high temperatures on the tube, the RF can basically fail sooner. So your longevity is going to be longer, right? Don't forget too that the tube is mounted in the bottom of the machine, so there isn't as much airflow there. So it's more critical that we're running the water through it on the higher wattage systems. But if you were doing a lot of heavy duty cutting, then you could even get 100 watt air water cooled. And I don't know if it's available on the 500. It may be available on the 1500, but there are water chilled systems for that. So
yeah, you can get the water cooled system on a Speedy as well.
Yeah,
you just have to order it. I mean, and the water chillers are for maybe environments that don't meet the requirements of our heat levels or cold levels for the ambient temperature of a machine, and we'll need to get that temperature much better using sort of a purpose-built system. So we can get your 120 watt machine, Speedy 400, Speedy 300, with a water chiller as well. And I've done that a couple of times in the past here. Is ordered it with the water, and it works. It works great. It makes your machine a little quieter if you can get that chiller out of the room, of course. Makes your machine quieter, but of course there's a much higher cost water cooling your machine.
I want to just bring up a question from Danny. Danny, thanks so much for being here. We also did a live stream with Danny. He's from D Nice Customs out in Buffalo, New York. Definitely would love to see you when this border closure is over. We're literally a few hours away from each other. So he's saying patiently waiting for the border to open up to set up a visit. My question is, can I add a vacuum table to my Speedy 300? Either by doing it myself or having a tech come out?
I would think it'd be better for him to do it himself. I mean, the last thing you want to do, Danny, is to bring that machine across the border. Because you know what? Going back, you may not get it back into the U.S.
It's pretty easy to do yourself.
I think Mike, were you joking?
I'm serious. You've got to be real careful coming across the border.
I think he's talking about a U.S.
Pretty sure the folks from New York can come up and put it in. But,
sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you meant for us.
Okay.
I thought you were joking. I was like, well,
yeah, I did too. Yeah, no, I put mine in back in 2013. They sent me a 300, and then they sent me a separate bed, and I had no idea what I was doing. And I opened it up and went, oh well, this is easy. We'll take the bolts off the table. We'll put it back on. We'll shove this tube down into this hole and done. I mean, it's I found it pretty easy, but of course, maybe I'm a little more mechanically savvy than some. But hey, if you're mechanically savvy, do it.
I think it's fair to say at this point, James, that you are probably not the average laser consumer, given the amount of hours of van footage there are of you literally driving a laser mobile. That perhaps.
Well, the biggest thing is getting the table squared up, right? I mean, that's the biggest thing, right? Just to make sure that the 00, probably it's easy to put it in, and then maybe just a half an hour call with the tech to get it lined up and everything like that. So.
Yeah, Danny, I would suggest call the guys in New York and see what they can recommend, because maybe there's something that they do down there that we don't up here. So that would be my suggestion. Joe Triasi, what kind of fire extinguisher do we have to get for it not to damage the machine? I guess a standard fire extinguisher, but that's if you leave your machine. Don't say anything, Mike.
You want something that's basically like CO2. So you don't want anything that has any chemical in it. Like you don't want any dust or anything like that, like a halotron or you can get that type. We do have the help file. If Joey wants to send an email, we have that file. Remember, we did that up for the proper fire extinguisher. But you want something that's not dry chemical, like that shoots out dust or whatever. So
sorry, I said it incorrectly. Not the standard fire extinguisher. What Mike was saying.
Yeah. CO2s work great.
And for Craig, does the SP500 has the OptiMotion, or is that just the Speedy 400?
That's the Speedy 400, 300, or 100.
Can you guys tell us what the OptiMotion is?
It's their plan. The machine is now able to plan the path as it's going. So I always liken it to you're in a F1 racing car driving through a very dense neighborhood. You're trying to race through this dense neighborhood where there's all sorts of turns and stop signs. OptiMotion is the co-pilot telling him where the turns are, so he can brake just at the right moments to come around these corners, even though he's never seen these corners before. So it's basically it's optimizing how quickly the laser can head into a corner, so that it's not going too slow and it's not going too fast to wipe the laser out and get it off of its accurate path, but it's not going so slow that you're like, oh, did you have to go this slow around the corner? So basically optimizing every single twist and turn in the cut as it's cutting. So that's basically the sort of really boiled down version of what OptiMotion does. Maybe Mike has some more to add to that.
Yeah, on a straight line, any time that, like, if you have like where you're moving from I lost my my word I was going to use, but when you go in a straight line, you go from one node to the other, you get acceleration, right? The problem on a small curve, as a lot of us know on the older machines, is that they slow down because there's so much math involved in having to calculate that movement, that it has to slow down. With the Optimotion, now what happens is it now can read farther ahead, and it can, as Jimmy said, it can plan its path, and it can assess the vectors in the areas. So when you're cutting those smaller arcs, basically the machine will move a lot faster and a lot smoother. What it's doing is it's taking the electronics from the SP2000 and the SP3000, which is where we introduced that technology, and it's now put it on the 400, the 300, and the 100.
Not the 360?
Yeah, the 360 I think will be in June or July, I believe. It'll be. I think that's the plan for it's the 360 is the newest machine, so it will probably be the last machine in the process to be updated. So it can't be updated. You have to basically get a new machine. So as far as I understand, anyways.
Yeah.
Okay, and right before we go, we're just at the top of the hour. I kind of wanted to tell you guys, maybe ask you guys between the difference between the R500 or the Rayjet R500 and the SP500. If we can kind of do maybe a little bit of a side-by-side comparison. The Rayjet R500, if you guys don't know, that's our I guess, less expensive large format cutter. So it's the same size as the SP500. But I don't know if you guys could maybe talk about the differences for people if they want to, if they're deciding to choose between the two.
I find that the R500 and the SP500, there's really no similarities except for the number, and the number could just mean it's sort of the same sort of form factor. It's still a flatbed class 2, a smaller large format, but they're completely different beasts. I mean, we use them for totally different things. If you are somebody who's hogging out cardboard to make jigs for industrial parts, let's say, and you just need a part separated, and you don't need the high quality edge of an SP500, you could get into an R500 to do this job, because it does have the wattage, and it has the cutting ability to hog out the cardboard, or to quickly cut wood, or something like this. But to get those flame polished edges with absolute clarity, you'd absolutely need the SP500. Mike?
Yeah, I mean, it's a glass tube system. I mean, you can put an RF tube in it, but I mean, it's designed specifically to carry a glass tube, which, doesn't have the same. Well, the tube itself, when you're cutting, isn't bad, but the motion system is definitely, running stepper motors versus servo motors. So your edge quality, as Jimmy said, isn't going to be as good. The engraving quality is actually pretty good on it, but again, it's very slow because it is a glass tube system. So I mean, maximum speed, I believe, is 40 inches a second on that physical machine. It is a 3 foot by 4 foot, so it's a little bit bigger than the 500. It's a 100-watt system, that comes standard on the physical machine itself. So yeah, I mean, if you're not looking at good quality, like if your edge quality isn't as big of a consideration as it may be for some other people, then certainly the R500 definitely is a good machine for doing that. And again, it's got a 100-watt tube, so it's going to cut pretty well half-inch acrylic. So it's more for production speed and quality with the SP500 versus if there are people that aren't the edge quality. I mean, if you're doing a lot of laser cut letters and you're putting silver aluminum oxide, My brain is fried today. You're putting like metal over top of it, right? And you're not really assessing the edge quality. Then it's fine.
Or if you're running your machine, 2 shifts a day, and you're running that thing all day, you're not going to want a glass tube R500. You're going to be wanting, you're going to be wanting something a lot more reliable, like the SP500. The R500 really is for budget use. I mean, if you sit down with someone like Mike or myself and try to figure out, what's the payback on your machine, and we will sit down with you and we'll open up a spreadsheet and we'll start trying to find out what are you making on this prospect, how much is it going to cost you, and we find out that an SP500, the size is what we need, but the ROI, the return on investment, is not going to be good enough. Then we'll look at, can we do your process with an R500? Now is the ROI good enough? We have a lot of machines that can give you a lot of options, so that we can still meet your requirements and yet still give you the ROI that you're expecting off of your part, because you can't just look at a machine and say, oh, that's too expensive, without actually sitting down with somebody and actually seeing, is the machine actually too expensive, or is this a pricey machine that's going to make you a lot of money? And we have to have these options in order to help you do that. And again, your salesperson, wherever you are in the world, is trained and ready to help you get these ROIs. And that's what's really important when looking at a laser, is what is the return on your investment? Not how much is the machine, but the return on investment. And that's why we have the difference between an R500 and an SP500, because they are absolutely two different animals for two different types of customers.
Well said.
Well said. I guess we'll sum it up there. I just wanted to thank James for the last minute roundup in the early morning call, and thank you again, Mike, for joining us. It's great to have you guys in, because Don and I were just basically going to be like, okay, we'll just do a Corel tutorial then. We don't know the answers like you guys do for those.
That's why they're called live streams.
Yeah.
and not pre-recorded
exactly.
streams.
So we'll have next week, we're going to have Stephen Colley do a deep dive into the Speedmark software for the Galvo machines, if you guys want to check that out. Stay tuned, and see you guys next week.
Yeah, bye guys.
Thanks,
a great
everyone.
weekend,
everyone.
All right, take care.